My name is Kweku Sumbry, and you are tuned in to Time Connect.
Hey, Kweku, man, thank you so much for taking the time to connect. I really appreciate it.
Pleasure's all mine.
Yeah, man, thank you. I'm a big fan. I'm really loving those two Immanuel Wilkins records. They're just outstanding records. Love your work on those records. I want to hear about some of the other stuff that you're doing. Where are you coming from us now? Are you on the road or are you at home?
I'm at home right now. I'm in Washington, D.C.
I knew you were from there. I didn't know you were still living there. In DC proper or in Virginia or Maryland?
In DC proper. I moved back around the pandemic time just to be closer to family. But I'm always back up in New York, like pretty much, if not weekly, bi-weekly or something like that.
Yeah. Well, fortunately, it's an pretty easy trip back and forth there. That's cool. I came up in DC myself, but it's been many, many, many years, and things have changed a whole lot since then. Uh, if you don't mind, let's start with a little bit of kind of personal history before we get into your music and your work. Uh, what were you like as a kid?
Um, let's see. As a child, I was very I had a huge imagination. My mom says that I ask a lot of questions, like a ton of questions I ask. You could think the most amount of questions a child could ask in a movie, just add on 50 more. Um, I always, I always loved to drum. I always loved to entertain people. So I would say I was a really happy child. Um, Big imagination, love knowing things, just love finding things out.
Hmm. Hmm. Is it true that you had your first professional gig at 4 years old?
Yes,
Wow.
I documented as well. I played at the Wolf Trap Theater.
Oh, I know
Um,
it. I lived less than a mile from there. I know it well. Yeah.
and there's actually a huge poster of me at 4 years old, hanging up on their. I don't know if they still have them, but during one season or a couple of seasons, they would be hanging on the light post. A picture of a child with a lot of hair playing djembe. That's me.
Man, that's remarkable. And was there ever any question about what instrument you'd play? You said you always were attracted to the drums, to percussion. Did you ever think that you might play a different instrument, or was it always going to be some percussion instrument?
Never going to be any other instrument. Always was the drums. I played trumpet for a week, but my I didn't like the way my lips. I didn't like that.
Okay.
But always the drums. Yeah.
Were your parents musicians?
My parents, my father is a drummer.
Okay.
Um, he doesn't drum as much. He plays West African drums. He doesn't drum as much as he used to. Um, my mother's not a drummer, but my mom used to sing.
Mhm.
Um, so I guess yes, but a lot. My family's filled with artists, filled with drummers and dancers alike. So
Yeah, I definitely want to ask you about the dancing thing. I know that's very important to you. What kind of before we get there, what kind of music were they playing in the house when you were a kid? A lot of different genres, or what were they playing?
a lot of different genres. So heavy on hip hop. So like I was born in the '90s, so I'm listening a lot of a lot of hip hop, a lot of reggae music, and a lot of go-go music from DC. And this is, my dad loved go-go music. Like this, he loved it. He loves it still to this day. Like I said, a lot of reggae music, music from the islands,
Hmm.
uh, and a lot of hip hop. Also, lots of R&B.
Hmm.
Um, I guess neo soul, and my mom had a lot of jazz records too. Um, but my earliest memory and introduction to jazz was from my grandfather, my mom's dad. He's an avid record collector, He's, from that era,
Mhm.
so he introduced me to Thelonious Monk very early. That was the first person where I remember having a keen relationship through his music and also through the documentary. Like I remember I developed like a sort of I didn't like it. I have to say I didn't like um I didn't like the music because I was like it's so weird, but I was infatuated with him as a person and as a composer because it sounded like he was playing a drum from the beginning. It sounded super percussive, and I was into it. So that's my pretty much background, and I forgot to mention a lot of West African music.
Yeah.
Eh, Just from the get go, like a lot of drumming, a lot of Mamadi Keita,
Mhm.
Amadou Konate, Youssou N'Dour, like a whole bunch of just West African artists, Umu Sangare. Yeah.
Yeah, right on. And what what drummers early on did you hear that really inspired you?
Drummers or percussion. I consider percussionist drummers, so I don't
Sure,
know what.
sure.
But I guess I'll just go with the earliest memory of drummers. My first, the first person who I held in probably like the highest regard in terms of the drum was Mamadi Keita, the djembe player, djembe master. He transitioned last year. Rest in peace.
Mm,
He's also a great uncle, um, or great grand uncle. And also Famadou Konate, Faduba Olare. These are all master drummers from Guinea, West Africa.
okay.
And then when it came to, I guess, the drums with the sticks,
Mhm.
the next person actually is Changito. Like I was studying congas before I touched the drum set because my uncle bought me this Giovanni and Changito disc, and me and my cousin just watched it all the time. We ran it into the ground. Like it was one of my favorite things to watch. And Changito, the way he was playing in the tape, he plays drum set, he plays timbales, he plays congas. And when he starts playing drum set, I was like, yo, this is crazy.
Yeah.
I'm like 7, maybe younger, maybe 6, 7, 8, something like that. So that was probably my first introduction to a stick drummer.
Uh-huh.
And then next would be through a movie, Drumline, Nick Cannon.
Yeah.
I really thought he could play the drums. Like I didn't, the fact that he was an actor, it didn't really make sense to me. I mean, I knew it was a movie, but in my eyes, he was super cool and he could play the drums.
Yeah.
And then from there, I think next was probably like Questlove because I'm just, I'm seeing his name, hearing him on tracks, and he has a big afro.
Mhm.
Um, and then like Max Roach, I was heavy into Max Roach when I first started into this music and studying the music. Max Roach and Art Blakey.
Yeah.
Those are the two drummers that I was listening to for a long time. And then from there was just a rush,
Yeah.
like wave of this drummers. So like, Blakey, Buhena, yeah. And just everybody after that. And then I kind of like the way I learned about the drums, I kind of just jumped around eras. I didn't go from New Orleans style drumming to big band to swing to bebop. Like I didn't go in that way.
Mhm.
I around. So I'm checking out Max Roach, and then it was Chris Dave, and
Mhm.
I went through a heavy Chris Dave phase where I
Yep.
just only Dave, and then other drummers, and then going back and forth until one of my teachers sat me down and was like, "This is the lineage of the drums."
Yes. Yeah. Right on. One thing I want to ask you about that I actually asked your bandmate Micah about. It seems to me that there really is a wave right now of young musicians like yourself hitting the scene pretty hard. I mean, just everyone in your quartet and Joel Ross, Gifton and Jonathan Barber, so many others. I'm curious about how you maybe see, maybe I don't know if this is a fair question or not, but how you see your generation maybe changing things. And let me just give you a little more context. I think any kind of music, older people like myself in my generation, a lot of times they get stuck in the era that they grew up with. So even in, for example, rock, you'll hear I literally hear people my age saying, there's no good rock music since the 60s or 70s. It was all back then. And I want to say, man, you're not paying attention. You're not listening. And it's absolutely the same thing with jazz. I've been a little bit guilty of it myself, getting stuck with just Coltrane and Miles and Monk and Sonny Rollins and Bird and those guys. But man, there's just a wave of fantastic young musicians playing today. Do you see it as your generation pretty much just carrying on the traditions, or how do you see yourself, your generation, maybe changing things a little bit, or do you?
I don't see us changing things from a couple of different, I guess, perspectives. Like there's nothing new that's under the sun. There's
Hmm.
nothing that you know I can do on the drums that quite honestly hasn't been done yet. But it may sound new because it's me doing it, and I have my own voice.
Yeah.
So it's like if I were to read a page out of a book, if I were to read page 96 out of Malcolm X's autobiography versus you reading page 96 out of Malcolm X's autobiography, the listener might take it two different ways, but
Oh, you bet.
they is the same word, right?
Hmm.
And that I'm playing the same notes and the same phrases as the next drummer or the next musician. But everybody is going to bring their soul. And what my teacher Michael Carvin told me, your fingerprint. Every drummer brings his or her fingerprint to the game.
Hmm.
It's not changing anything. It's just that we're taking our life experiences and using music as a mirror to show our life experiences, right? So I guess in my today's generation, I don't think that we're necessarily changing anything. Um, you know, some folks are playing faster, some folks are playing slower, louder, um, odd meters, but it's still all music. And at the end of the day, it's good music. It's healthy music. It's high vibrational music. We're not tearing each other down with our music. We're lifting each other up with the music. It's conscious music at the end of the day.
Yeah.
Um, so I don't think that we're changing anything. We're gonna chase ourselves into the ground by trying to chase
Hmm.
Train and
Right.
Pharoah Sanders and
Yeah.
Sun Ra and
Hmm.
Miles Davis and all these beautiful, amazing musicians and Alice Coltrane and Jerry Allen. Like it's
Yeah.
it's nothing that we're doing different than what Jerry was doing. Like
Hmm.
and so it's we just I think it has a lot to do with this age of social media, it being a certain light on different things, and people having the ability to have a lot of eyes on their own opinion about music,
Yeah.
right? So yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, I like that answer. One of the things, and maybe I'm oversimplifying, but one of the things I was thinking about when I asked that question is, hindsight's 2020, and you can look back and see changes that happened, like bebop, happened, and then you kind of codify it and put it in a box, and maybe that's not completely fair, but and then you got hard bop, and then much later you get hip hop that pretty much changed things. And so I'm wondering, if 20, 30 years ago, people look back at at your generation and see some other thing. Here's one possibility I'll just try out with you. And I think it makes sense to ask you this question. Maybe one difference, even though it's all still music, etc., maybe one difference is bringing in more international flavors into American jazz. For a long time, if you just look at jazz, European jazz, it was probably, you could see it more based in classical music, and American jazz, you could see the blues influence for sure. And that's again an oversimplification, but I think it's a fair oversimplification. But now it seems it's not brand new, but it seems more than ever things like West African percussion is coming, and you're one of those guys bringing in some of the other elements from around the world. Is that a fair thing, you think, to say?
Uh, no, not really, because the West African percussion side, like again, we just have social media now, so people are going to be able to put a name and a face to who's bringing this sound,
Yeah.
and be a person's life and profile, and be like, oh, this person is located in DC and knows this, blah blah blah. But I say all that to say, like, if you go back to Chano Pozo, right? You go back to Dizzy Gillespie, bringing over Chano.
Yeah.
To write Manteca and do the, Afro-Cuban jazz thing.
Right.
Afro-Cubans are predominantly from Nigeria and Benin, West Africa. When you look at even Train, you look at Pharaoh Sanders and all of these cats in the 60s who were working with Baba Olatunji, who were working with Chief Bey. These are names that the lineage that I come from. Baba Neal, who worked with Randy Weston, who worked with Sonny Rollins. These are all percussionists, and not just West African percussionists, but Black American percussionists who held on to the tradition, not recreated the tradition, but just carried on the tradition and passed it on to my elders, and who passed it on to me. When you look at it, it's always been a part of the music, and it's always been a deep part of the culture. You look at somebody like Baba Milford Graves, he was there. He was super into West African percussion. At the same time, collaborating with all of these cats during the time of that quote unquote free jazz era. So I think I would be doing a disservice to say that it's a new thing.
Right.
But like with time it comes evolution, things evolve. So, maybe in this may be the first time that the djembe orchestra, djembe, sangba, dunumba, kinkini, is introduced into a record of this magnitude, and I'm talking about 7/10. But that's done on purpose, and we did that, because of the lineage that we came from. It's like the quote Sankofa, go back and fetch it. Like nothing is done. So what I'm going to bring to the table is going to be old, and it might be older than a lot of the things that that is paired with. It might be older than quote unquote jazz music, but that doesn't mean that it's not relevant, or that it can't be relevant, or it can't be spun or arranged or produced in a certain way that is going to make the project better.
Yeah, one of the ways that I think about, for example, your quartet and the music, some of the other folks that are playing today, and I don't know how much I'm imposing this, it's just something I'm imposing on, but it feels like a lot of the current jazz is clearly in the tradition. It's in the lineage, but it also feels fresh and new at the same time. And I think that's what's beautiful about it. In fact, I got to tell you, I think my favorite track on the Seventh Hand album is the Don't Break record or song.
Okay.
And I wonder if you talk about that a little bit. I mean, you brought in the Farafina Khan percussion ensemble, and I've heard Immanuel say that you associated it with dance in some way. Can you just talk about that song a little bit for us?
Yeah. So Immanuel wrote the song before we knew that we were going to play those rhythms to it. Like before we recorded the song, we kind of played the song just as written. So I have the lead sheet in front of me. I'm playing the drum set, and I'm marking the form, playing with the bass players, make sure I'm locked in with the bass player, using dynamics. But a big thing that Immanuel was telling me when he first wrote it, he was like, he wants the song to feel like work. Like he wants it to feel like a group of people doing physical labor, putting a house together. I immediately took it as like a chain gang, a group of 16 people knocking train tracks into place. You know what I'm saying? It sounds like work.
Yeah.
And I chose the rhythm. It's two rhythms that we played. We played Dunumbe, we played Takosoba. And I chose those two rhythms because they come from a family of rhythms called Dunumba. Dunumba is a family of rhythms that's from West Africa. It's from Guinea, West Africa. And it's really a war rhythm, but it's a rhythm about strength. You know, a lot of people say that it's the dance of the strong man. Of course, anyone can do the dance. Anyone can teach the dance. Some of the most beautiful and best dancers are women who teach this dance, Dunumba. But in its original capacity, it was done to celebrate men going to war, right? It's a war dance. I chose those two rhythms because one felt like work, and the thing about Dunumba is it's super circular. Like the rhythm never stops. You know, there's a cycle to the rhythm. There's a cycle to every Dunumba rhythm. Takosaba, Dununani, Dunumbe, Geberedu. There's so many Dunumba rhythms. I could go on like for maybe 30 minutes about just the amount of Dunumba rhythms. And I chose those two rhythms specifically because it fit with the theme of the song, right? It fit with the structure of the song. I had to tweak Dunumbe a little bit because the song has a couple of odd measures, but odd measures to us, it's really nothing. Like one of the best descriptions of an odd measure that one of my peers gave me, James and Joe, like they were like, I think James was like, just imagine it like you walking down the street and you just kind of skip. It's not an interruption in on your journey. It's just a little skip. So that's how we treat odd measures, and that's maybe a fresh approach. I don't think it's a fresh approach, but it's just you're just treating it like you just walk, right? And that's how I went about arranging the Dunumbe, and then going into the Takosoba part of Don't Break. And then also the thing about Don't Break is that, you know, it's the I guess the definition of the song is really layered, because in war, in your platoon, in your group, it's important that you don't break. Like y'all hold the line, you know? It's about holding the line. And you can say that has a lot to do with Black culture today. That has a lot to do with humanity today during the times that we were dealing with when the record was put out. Being in the middle of a pandemic, but we could be thrown all these different obstacles, but we can bend as much as we need to, but we won't break, you know?
Amen. Yeah, beautiful, beautiful. Was there a sense of pressure on the quartet after? I mean, Omega just made a huge splash and blew a lot of people away. I always wonder, you know, that next record, when that first record is so huge, if there's not that it affect you much, but you know, that expectation, that pressure of expectations. Did you guys feel that at all?
Nah, I'm gonna have to say no, only because we just felt like we could be better. Like we knew that we played better. Like, you know, when we cut Omega, we recorded Omega very early. I think in 2019, like the beginning. Like Omega was recorded really early in terms of our musical careers, in terms of us moving to. We were all in undergrad, like really, really early.
Amazing.
I don't like a thing where we felt like, oh, the next one got to be even crazy. We're still looking at the first one like, well, you know, we're just happy that everyone loves it and that, you know, the music is, it was taken that way. So no. And then also on top of that, you know, like speak for me personally, like I'm dealing with real life situations and I'm dealing with things in my life that quite honestly don't give me the luxury to worry about sophomore album this and sophomore album that. You know what I'm saying? Like I'm real life situations and music is an outlet for me. So I'm just, when I come to the music, it's like, okay, I'm gonna make sure I have the music learned, but you know, I'm really looking forward to expressing myself in this capacity.
Yeah. Yeah. Great, man. You know, I love both the records. I have to say, I like Seventh Hand a little bit more, but they're both fantastic records. What's that?
It's more refined,
Yeah.
maybe a little more short. It's shorter.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's straight to the point. I like it too. I try not to. It's hard for me to like listen to music that I want over and over again,
Hmm. Hmm.
especially after mix. Like, after you listen, we go through all the takes that we did. And we didn't do that many takes of the stuff, quite honestly. But you go through the takes that you did, and you got to listen to the song over and over again and hear this where you messed up here, or you really like this part and this. So it kind of, it kind of, it creates a lot of, how do you say it? Brain, it's like just brain fatigue.
Yeah. Yeah. And is there a third record in the works?
Uh, I don't, I don't know. Yeah, I mean, yeah,
Yeah.
another record definitely gonna come, but to be continued, to be announced, to be.
Yeah. Yeah. I think a live record would be a pretty cool thing for you guys to do. I haven't been with you live, which I'm really looking forward to doing, but I've seen enough on video on online to know that live would be a really special way to hear you guys do a record. But so what is it must be kind of cool being on Blue Note for those records. What does Blue Note Records mean to you? I'm just curious.
Blue Note Records means a lot to me. The first Blue Note record, I mean, like, kind of blue. You know what I'm saying? Like Blue Note Records is like, even before I really started studying this music, I knew about Blue Note Records, and I knew about Columbia Records. You know what I'm saying? Prestige, because these were just the labels that I saw on all of these CDs in my grandfather's house. Like, I'm
Yeah.
talking hundreds of CDs. And I've always liked Blue Notes, the covers, because you can always tell Blue Note. And I was like, oh man, that's pretty. So like all the Lee Morgan stuff, woo.
Yeah. Oh yeah, man.
That grandfather liked Lee Morgan a lot, and he liked Freddie Hubbard a lot too. So like Blue Note has been something that I've known about. I'm blessed and grateful to be a part of a project on a label such as Blue Note.
Yeah. Yeah, I'm sure glad they brought in Don Was. I think he's had a really cool influence on keeping that label again, kind of similar to the music I was talking about. There's the tradition is there. It's still Blue Note for sure, but there's a freshness to it now that I think maybe wasn't there before Don came in. I think he has something to do with it, which I think is pretty cool. Are you teaching music at this point?
I am teaching adjunct, private lessons. I'm teaching at a few universities, online privately. You can hit me up via social media. My email is all in my bio and everything. But yeah, I'm teaching. I do a little bit of teaching. Yep.
Hmm. Yeah, I'll definitely in the show notes to this video. I'll put your website there and ways for people to get a hold of you. One of the things I'm a teacher. I'm been a teacher my whole life, and I'm always curious for people especially people who are performers and also teachers, uh, if you feel that the teaching somehow influences your playing or deepens your learning. One of the things I've discovered is that when you know something, you think you know something, and maybe you do, but you kind of know it tacitly. You don't really, you just know. But when you're forced to explain it and you're forced to show it and talk about it to someone, it kind of deepens your knowing sometimes. It adds a new dimension. Have you found that to be the case?
Absolutely. It deepens your knowing, and it can also show you that you don't know it.
Yeah. 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 That's true. That's true. Uh-huh.
Like,
Yeah.
is the best form of practice, in my opinion, because like you said, you're forced to give not only give an example, but an explanation and play it slowly
Hmm.
and good, almost perfectly every time. You know what I'm
Hmm.
saying?
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah, I always teaching is super humbling, because you think like, oh man, you got it. You just played this tour,
Yeah.
and you come, that's like, can you show me what this was? And like, yeah, sure, no problem. Oh, one second. Oh,
Yeah. 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 And I read somewhere that you make your own drums or some of your own drums. Is that true? What kind of are you making? What kind of percussion instruments are you making?
so I make my own djembes.
Djembes? Yeah.
So reheading it, putting the skin on, stringing up the rope, everything like that. Yep. I'm
Very
actually
cool.
making my own drum set, or getting it made when I go back to West Africa. You know, sourcing the material, design, and everything. So I'm doing that. That's in the works soon.
Hmm. Hmm. Do you remember your first drum kit?
Yep, I do.
How old were you?
I was 14, 14
Okay.
to 15.
Okay. When I talked to Kendrick Scott, he talked about his first drum. I don't know if you've heard the story. His first drum kit, he set up shop in a closet when he was, I don't know, maybe 3 or 4 years old, and he took a box for his snare, and I forget what else he used, and then he took some of his parents' vinyl LPs and hung them from hung them with string or something from the from the closet hanger thing, and he used the cardboard roll from the hangers as his sticks, and he said when his parents discovered that, they're like, okay, we got to get this kid a drum kit. But
That's an amazing story right there. I love Kendrick, man. I studied with Kendrick. He's super, super great person. My hero.
he is Who are some of the other I also talked to Jonathan Blake, and man, I'm a big fan of him. I think he's amazing. I love Brian Blade. I'd love to get Brian on here. Who are some of the other contemporary drummers that you admire?
Oh man, you said him, Brian Blade, man. Wow.
Yeah.
Gregory Hutch, Terry Lynn Carrington, um, Eric Harlan,
Yeah.
Justin Brown, Marcus Gilmore. Um, who else am I missing? Oh, EJ Strickland, Dana Hawkins. Man, so many. Oh, Obed Cavalier. I study with Obed too. I study with a lot of these cats. Like, I'm not all of them, but like, even if it was just 2 or 5 or 3 lessons, 6 lessons, I studied with a lot of these folks, and I took bits and pieces of everything that I needed, and I put it all in the book. And
Nice.
try to record and write everything down. You know, take the best of all these musicians. I'm missing some folks. Clarence Penn. I love Clarence Penn. Yeah.
Yeah, right on. So, you've got a hell of a career ahead of you. You're still pretty young, and I think yeah, man, I'm excited to see where things go for you. Who is someone you've not played with that you would like to play with?
Mm. I would love to play with like Ravi Coltrane. I love Ravi's music.
Hmm.
Um, Esperanza. Well, I play with Esperanza, I guess, kind of, sort of. But like, you know, Esperanza, I love her music. Um, let's see, I listen to like, you know, like some R&B stuff too. So like, Raven Lene, um, let's see, who else? Joshua Redman.
Oh yeah, you're gonna have to push Brian out of the way for that one.
Oh wait. Some Cuban artists. I love rumba music.
Yeah.
Like, yeah, Osain Del Monte. I'd love to play with that group. Yoruba and Dabo. Um, shoot, I mean, Patti LaBelle.
Yeah. Yeah.
Oh yeah, I played with Patti LaBelle in high school. It was just like a benefit concert though. But
No kidding. Wow.
yeah,
Yeah.
I got to play Over the Rainbow on the drums.
Wow, that's super cool. Now, as long as we're playing the fantasy game here, now what if you could either go back in history anytime for a night and play with someone, or bring some of these people, one of these cats, into the present just for a little fantasy, a night of playing with them, and anybody, Miles, anybody come to mind who you'd want to play with?
I don't know if I would. I don't know. If, that's a good question. I think I would bring them to the future.
Okay.
That's no, because the past for Black folk, people who look like me, just our conditions after the gig wasn't the best.
Yeah.
I
Yeah.
would want to maybe do them a good service by maybe just off just
Yeah.
off. Yeah, let's come in 2023, y'all. You know what I'm saying? But who would it be? Wow, that's crazy. Wow. I mean, I don't think I would want to play. I would just want to be a promoter or something, and just like Bring the Train Quartet.
Yeah, yeah.
Hey, but like Alice be there too. No, maybe just like if not the Train Quartet, then just Alice Coltrane. Like she's probably my favorite artist. If I could just be just Alice Coltrane in 2023, 2022, and just listen. I mean, she might not even play, which that's totally fine. Um, yeah.
Yeah, just being in the presence would be cool for sure. Yeah, mine would be Monk. I would. I'm incredibly fascinated with Monk, and like you were at a young age, he's just such a unique person. I forget who it was that said, there should probably be a separate category of music and just call it Monk's music, and it's not even jazz. It's just something different. And I don't know, that may be an overstatement, but man, he was something, wasn't he?
He stayed far away from the cliches, man. He's just so groundbreaking, just so good.
Yeah.
Music is so accurate. Oh man, yeah.
So you've got an upcoming tour of Europe with the quartet. You're going to be over there for a little while. What else? What else do you have on the horizon? What do you have coming up?
Oof. Well, I got a gig tonight.
Do you?
Playing in DC, yeah, at this place called Flavor Garden. We playing with Corcoran Hall, bass player Corcoran Hall trio. Kenny Garrett, somebody else will do it. And then next week I'm going to Brazil with Induduzo Makatini from South Africa, piano player.
Okay.
We'll be in Brazil for maybe 4 days and come back, and then we head to Europe. I've been recording here in DC with my percussion ensemble. We just been recording, just, experimenting with different sounds, experimenting with different drums. Looking forward to putting some project of that out sometime next year. Let's see. That's pretty much it.
Yeah.
And then some, like, when we get some tours, a lot of traveling next year with the quartet.
Well, you will be in demand. Like I said, I'm really looking forward to watching your career because you've got quite a future. Let me ask you this. I don't know if this is a fair question or not. Just see if something comes to mind. What is the most memorable show that you've attended in your life? If you had to pick one and maybe get to relive it again.
Attended.
Yeah.
Like,
I'd like to ask you also the most memorable show you played, but that's kind of a two-part question.
attended. Oh, that's a good. I saw. Maybe it's just because Pharaoh's on my mind, but Pharaoh Sanders play
Hmm.
at Bohemian Caverns when I was younger in DC, and that was one of the most memorable experiences that I've had. His sound is just engulfing. It's so huge, huge sound. Very, very beautiful embodiment of love. That Pharaoh concert, he sat and played, and it was as if he was just bigger than everybody else in the room, but not in a negative way or a way that put other people down. It was just beautiful.
Hmm.
And then a show that I did, I don't know if, I mean, I have had a show that it was just wasn't good. This was like a while ago that I remember because I was starstruck because who was there, but that's not really. Oh, we had a show this past summer, and it was a full moon. I'll never forget this. It was a full moon, and as the sun started to go down, all of these bugs just swarmed the stage. I'm talking thousands of little bugs, right? So we're playing. I think we're playing seventh hand too. Smoking. By the time we get to like part 6, the like lighthouse, the second to last movement, you just like it was you. I couldn't look up because if I looked up, bugs would get in my eye. So I had a towel, towels, my face tucked into my shirt. Micah was, I don't know how Micah did it. I think he just kept his head down too, but he was smashing bugs on the piano. I'm talking like thousands of bugs. Bugs all over my drum set, like all of just, I don't think you understand, like a swarm. And we just had to play. And I was so happy to get off stage. And I think we had to do an encore.
Wow. Wow.
In a bug show. That was
crazy. That's crazy. Well, man, I don't want to take much more of your time. I do want to ask you, if you don't mind, a couple of kind of rapid fire questions, and then we'll finish up. Just a couple. So first one, what pisses you off?
Oh, when you're driving and somebody's just driving right up on your bumper.
Yeah.
I slow down.
Yeah. Oh yeah. Yeah. Never in the history of mankind has that made someone speed up. I'm with you there. I cannot believe the way people drive. And so do you have a particular practice that you use to, when things are tough for you, when you're feeling down a little bit, when the bullshit of life is weighing heavy? Do you meditate? Do you pray? Is it always music, or do you have some method that you use to kind of get back to your center?
I meditate. I pray.
Mhm.
Both of those.
Yeah. Right on. Two more questions. This one's we're going to jump in the deep end here. It's a little maybe out of left field, but I'm wondering if you have, these are questions I ask all my guests at the end. A topic that I'm extremely interested in, and I'm curious how people think about this. Do you have any concept, belief, philosophy about what happens when we die?
Yeah. We go back to the ancestral realm, receive another mission, and come back.
Okay, right on. Thank you. Last question. When you have passed over to the other side, what do you hope people say about you?
What do I help them? Okay, that in some way, shape, or form that I helped them.
Hmm.
That I was of help. That I was of assistance. Yeah, or
Nice.
of support.
Nice. Well, I suspect people are already saying that about you, and I think another thing they would say is that you are blessing the world with your music, and I'm a big fan, and I'm honored to talk to you, and I really appreciate you taking this time to connect, Kweku, and I wish you all the best.
Thank you.
We'll see you down the road. Take care.
Peace.
Bye-bye.